There is a bottle in your shed. Tomato feed, plant food, whatever the label says, $6. And you get through 3 or 4 of them across a summer. We never bought one. Round the back of our wall stands a barrel out of the sun, a flat stone holding the lid down. Lift it and stand back, because the smell comes up at you like a slap. Underneath, the water has gone almost black. Dip a ladle, and it runs off the edge, slow, like weak treacle. Nettles and comfrey, water and thyme. That is the whole thing. It fed every bed we had, and it never cost us a penny. Now, before we make any, you need to understand why it works, because otherwise you will not believe that something free can beat something you paid for. Think about what a plant actually is. It is standing still, but underneath it is reaching. Roots go down through the loose top layer of the bed, and most vegetable roots stop there in the top foot or so of soil that you dig and feed and fuss over. But some plants do not stop there. Comfrey sends its roots far deeper, down past where your carrots and your lettuces have ever been, into subsoil you have never touched with a fork. And down there are minerals. They have always been there. They are simply out of reach. The comfrey reaches them, it draws them up, and it puts them into its leaves, which are enormous and grow back 4 times a summer. So the plant is a pump. It spends all season lifting what is buried out of reach and stacking it in leaves at knee height, where you can cut it with a knife. And that is all we are doing here. We are letting the leaves rot in water so that what the plant lifted goes into a liquid, and we pour that liquid where we want it. Now compare that with the bottle in the shed. What you buy is salts dissolved in water. They work. I am not going to pretend otherwise. The plant greens up, but salts wash. The first heavy rain, and a good part of what you poured on is past the roots and gone down through the soil. So you buy another bottle, and here's the part that always struck me. Look at what the tomato feed on the shelf is actually selling you. It is selling potassium, because potassium is what makes a plant set fruit rather than just make leaf. That is the whole promise on the label. And potassium is exactly what is standing against the wall in a plant nobody planted that you have been cutting down and throwing away. The brother who kept this garden before me had that barrel going every summer, and he never once told me what was in it in the way I have just told you. What he told me was when he would send me out for nettles in April and for comfrey in July, and if I brought the wrong one at the wrong time, he sent me back. I thought he was being particular. He was being exact. And he never measured anything. He judged the brew by nose and by color, and when I asked him how much to use, he took the watering can off me and showed me what shade it ought to be, which is a thing you can only learn by being shown once. Let me be honest about the name of this, because you will see it called comfrey tea. Tea. It sounds gentle, like something in a cup. It is not. It is rotting greenery in water. And by the 3rd week, it smells like a ditch in August. There is no polite way round that, and I am not going to sell it to you as a pleasant afternoon. What it is free and strong, and it works. Now, here's the thing that most people never get told, and it is the whole reason this is worth doing properly rather than throwing any old weeds in a bucket. These 2 plants are not the same fertilizer. They are almost opposites. Nettle feed runs at roughly 2 parts nitrogen, half a part phosphorus, 1.5 parts potassium. It is a nitrogen feed. Nitrogen builds leaf and stem and green growth. Comfrey feed runs at roughly 1.5 parts nitrogen, half a part phosphorus, and 5 parts potassium. 5. That is a potassium feed, and it is one of the richest you can make at home. Potassium is flowers and fruit and ripening. So they are 2 different tools, and the season tells you which one to reach for. In spring, everything is trying to get big. Young plants, transplants going out, leafy things, brassicas, anything you are growing for its leaves. That is nettle weather. Feed nitrogen while the plant is building itself. From midsummer on, the job changes. The tomatoes have set their first trusses. The squashes are swelling. The beans are hanging. Now you do not want more leaf. More leaf at that point is a plant wasting itself on greenery instead of finishing fruit. That is comfrey weather. That is why the old brother sent me back with the wrong bucket. April is nettles. July is comfrey. It was never fussiness. And if you want one thing to keep it simple, mix the two half and half, and you have a decent general feed for the whole plot. But once you know the difference, you will stop wanting the general one. So, getting hold of the plants. Nettles are free, and they are probably already yours. Look along the base of a wall, behind a shed, at the edge of a hedge, anywhere the ground has been left alone and enriched over the years. And that is not a coincidence, which is a thing worth knowing about your own ground. Nettles want high nitrogen and phosphates, so they colonize exactly where people and animals have been. An old midden, a place where waste went, ground by a building. That is why you find them at the foot of walls and around ruins. A thick stand of nettles is the ground telling you it is rich there. Read it as a sign, then cut it and put it in the barrel. Comfrey you will probably have to bring in, and here's where I want you to be careful, because this is the one decision in the whole film you cannot undo easily. Do not buy comfrey seed. Do not accept a handful of seed from a friend. Wild comfrey seeds itself about, and once it is loose in a garden with that root system, you will be pulling it out of your beds for years. What you want is a variety called Bocking 14. It is sterile, it does not set seed, so it stays exactly where you put it. It was bred for this job. It gives you 3 or 4 cuts a season off a single established plant, and it is sold as root cuttings, not seed, from any decent nursery. Root cuttings look like nothing at all. Brown pieces of root a few inches long. Lay them just under the surface. Water them and wait. They come, and once you have a plant, you never need to buy another. Drive a spade in horizontally a couple of inches under the crown, lift the top off, cut it into pieces and replant them. The parent plant does not even seem to mind. Within weeks, it is back. Next, where you put it, and I want you to think about this for a minute before you dig. That root goes down a long way, and that is the whole point of the plant. But it also means that where you plant comfrey is where comfrey lives. Moving it later means chasing root down through the soil, and any piece you snap off and leave behind will grow again. So do not put it in the middle of a vegetable bed. Give it a corner. Along a fence, at the end of the plot, in the awkward strip nobody grows anything in, it does not need good ground. It is going to go and find what it needs underneath. Full sun or part shade, both are fine. Put in 3 plants, and you will have more leaf than you can use. Now the brew itself, which is almost insultingly simple, cut your leaves. For comfrey, take the whole plant down to about a hand's width above the ground, and do not be gentle. It will be back in 5 weeks. For nettles, take the young tops in spring, and wear gloves, obviously. Pack them into a barrel or a bin, push them down, fill it maybe 2/3 with leaves, then add water until the leaves are just covered. No more than that. People drown it in water and end up with something weak. Put a lid on, or a board, or a sack. 2 reasons. It keeps the rain from filling it up and watering it down, and it keeps some of the smell in, which matters more than you think. And put the barrel where the smell will not find you. Behind the shed, round the back of a wall, at the bottom of the garden, not by the kitchen door, and not next to where your neighbor sits out on a summer evening. If you are finding this useful, do me the kindness of subscribing. I put out what I have learned in this garden every week, and I would be glad of your company. Now, where was I? Yes, waiting. In summer, in proper warmth, give it 3 to 5 weeks. In a cold spring, it can take 8. Warmth is what does the work, so a barrel in a sheltered spot finishes sooner than one in the shade. You will know it is working long before it is finished. In the first days, it fizzes and froths at the top as things get going. That is normal. Leave it. You know it is ready when the leaves have collapsed into a sludge and lost their shape, and the water underneath has gone dark brown, near black, and slightly thick. Give it a stir. If you can still see whole, recognizable leaves, it wants another week. The smell will be terrible. That is not a fault. That is what finished looks like. And now, the single most important instruction in this whole film, and the one people ignore, you must dilute it. 1 part brew to 10 parts water. That is not a suggestion. What is in that barrel is concentrate. Pour it on neat and you will scorch the roots and burn the leaves of the plant you were trying to help, and you will have done more damage than if you had fed it nothing at all. 1 part to 10. If you are using a watering can, that is roughly a small jug full of brew into a full can of water, the color is the check. And this is the thing I was shown rather than told. Diluted properly, it should look like weak tea, pale brown, see-through. If what is in your can looks dark, like coffee, it is too strong. Add water. And if you are in doubt, go weaker. A feed that is slightly too weak does nothing much. A feed that is too strong does harm. So, how to use it? Water the ground first if it is dry. Then pour the diluted feed onto the soil around the base of the plant where the roots are, not over the leaves. This is a root feed. And splashing that liquid over foliage and sunshine is asking for scorched leaves and a smell in the greenhouse you will regret. Once a week through the growing season is plenty. Every 2 weeks is fine. This is not something you do daily. Nettle in spring. On everything young and leafy. Comfrey from midsummer. On tomatoes, peppers, squashes, beans. Anything you are growing for fruit. Potted plants take it well too, since they have nothing else to draw on. And ease off in late summer as things wind down. Let me save you the 4 ways this goes wrong. The first is using it neat. It is the commonest mistake, and it is the one that does real damage. 1 to 10, weak tea. The second is planting comfrey from seed, or letting wild comfrey into the garden. Balking 14 from root, or you will regret it for years. The third is cutting nettles too late. Once nettles have flowered and set seed, you are carrying a barrel of nettle seed around your garden and pouring it onto your beds. Cut them young, before they flower, and you avoid the whole problem. And the fourth is feeding nitrogen too late in the year. A big dose of nettle feed in August pushes out soft new growth just as the season is closing, and soft growth is exactly what the first frost destroys. After midsummer, comfrey, not nettle. Now let me be straight with you, because I am not selling you a miracle in a barrel. This is a feed, not soil improvement. It hands the plant something to use now. It does not build your ground the way compost and rotted muck do. It does not add body to thin soil, and it will not rescue a bed that has had nothing put back into it for years. Keep composting. This sits on top of that work. It smells, and there is no fixing that. Anyone who tells you their comfrey brew smells pleasant has not made any. And one more thing, and I want to be very clear about it, because comfrey carries old names like knitbone, and people hear those names and get ideas. Comfrey goes in the barrel. It does not go in the pot. It is not a tea you drink, whatever it is called, and it is not something to put on yourself. The plant contains compounds that are hard on the liver when taken internally. That is not superstition, and it is not me being cautious for the sake of it. Grow it, cut it, rot it, feed your tomatoes with it. Do not eat it. Now the arithmetic, since that is the whole argument, a bottle of tomato feed is $5 or $6, and you will use 3 or 4 across a summer. Call it $20 a year, every year, for as long as you garden. 3 comfrey root cuttings cost you a few dollars once. The nettles cost nothing and are already growing. The barrel you probably have, and if not, any old bin does. The water is water, and it comes back. That is the part I would want you to hold on to. A comfrey plant established this year will still be pumping minerals out of your subsoil in 20 years and giving you 4 cuts every single summer and asking for nothing at all. So, short and plain. Nettles in spring for nitrogen and leaf. Comfrey from midsummer for potassium, flower, and fruit. Get comfrey as balking 14 root cuttings, never seed, and give it a permanent corner. Pack a barrel 2/3 with leaves, cover with water, put a lid on it, and stand it well away from the house, 3 to 5 weeks in warmth. It is done when the leaves are sludge and the water is near black. Dilute 1 part to 10 until it looks like weak tea. Pour it on the soil, not the leaves, once a week, and never drink it. That is a summer of feeding for nothing out of a plant that grows against a wall. Go and look along your fence line this week and see whether the nettles are already there. I think you will find they are. And tell me below, because I read everything you write, what have you been buying for your tomatoes, and what did it cost you this year? Next time I will show you how we stored the garlic and why it never once went soft on us before spring. The garden gate is always open. Come and walk with me again.